social media for beautiful food and inspiration.
Everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do this show live every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, right here on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media, and it's broadcasting to other places that don't matter. You can support this project. Just go to echoplexmedia.com, click the support tab. I think the best thing there is the memberships, probably on eplex.store, but you can make your own decisions. Like buy hats, t-shirts, that kind of stuff. New Downballot logo shirt is there, and it looks fantastic. I'm producer Dave, and you can find me working on a very long article and being burned out because of it. Also on Grindr.
Is the article on Grindr, or you?
No. You can't publish on Grindr. I would put it there if I could.
Sorry, your profile is on Grindr. So
my profile is on Grindr. Yes, you could find it. You have to be pretty close by.
Are you open to relationships? Are you just looking to hang? Are you DTF? What's the status?
No, I'm the second two.
Okay, gotcha. I don't know what the stat. I'm not familiar with Grindr, so I don't know if there's like actual statuses you can choose. But yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, you
good for everyone to know.
You could tell that you're looking for hookups. Yeah. I'm not. I'm not in the market for a boyfriend. I stream 6 nights a week. I don't think it's in the cards.
You stream with your men and your shows.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't be in the cards right now to have any kind of like a serious thing going on. It would be frustrating for them, and frustrating for them.
So you stream outward 6 nights a week, and then you download stream a dude when you're feeling frisky.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but absolutely, whatever you're saying is fine. My brain.
I don't know how Grindr works. I don't know how these dating apps work. I got married before the dating apps really took off, so I've never really got to experience it.
My brain is scrambled. Introduce yourself.
I'm the councilman, I think. You can find me at THE_councilman on X. You can also find me in the self-checkout aisle at Target buying way too many Pampers, because that's just the life now. So sorry, Mom. I can't believe you had to go through all this. But anyway, maybe they just had one diaper for me and they just washed it every day. I think that was how it worked. But anyway, that's me. I'm excited to be here. We have a really full docket this week. We have an election coming up it's happening right now. Election day is now 30 days, right? Because we all vote by mail. So election deadline day, let's say, is next Tuesday, the 5th of March. And we're going to be talking quite a bit about that tonight. So we can dive in whenever you are ready, my friend.
What do we got for leading off?
Well, I do love it when worlds collide here at Echoplex Media. And we have a story that could easily be found on multiple shows and multiple streams. So this one certainly fits that bill. Elon Musk has had to step in because his company Tesla did a wrong by a local nonprofit bakery. And we're going to learn more about what happened in the snafu and how the community has risen up to respond.
Now at 11, solving the pie problem. Tonight, Elon Musk is vowing to make things right with this San Jose bakery after a canceled pie order, a cancellation that was costly and frustrating for the owner. Now, it is a baking blunder by Tesla that tonight has a lot of people showing up to that bakery to help out.
The Giving Pies in Willow Glen had received an order from Tesla for 4,000 pies. Problem is, Tesla canceled and the bakery owner had already bought the ingredients and supplies. NBC Bay Area's Jocelyn Moran joins us in the newsroom tonight. So, Jocelyn, I understand Musk is now stepping in.
Right. He is reacting, and he says he is going to make things good with the bakery. What exactly that means is not yet clear. The owner hasn't heard from Musk since this was posted, but this also has a lot of people in the community talking and showing support for the owner.
At the Giving Pies in Willow Glen on Friday, a long line to get the last of the mini pies for the day.
I got a cherry, a strawberry, and a pear apple.
I felt like I needed to get a bunch of different things.
Customers showing their support after hearing about what happened to owner Vuangi Rasetarinera. She says last week she got an order from Tesla for 4,000 mini pies. She bought ingredients and supplies and declined at least 3 other catering jobs. Tesla unexpectedly ended up canceling the order via text.
I thought it was terrible. I mean, here they do a nice business with a great product and they give some of it away to help people, and then Tesla comes and orders 4,000 pies and then squashes the order. I think that's disgusting.
This was David's second trip to the Giving Pies just today. There were also first-time customers coming in.
It's hard for these, non-chain type places to survive, so I thought I'd come over and support. The pies look great.
Feel super grateful and super supported.
Vuangi tells us business tripled today, and she's receiving messages and orders from all over the world.
People placing orders like, I live in Canada. I just want to support you. So they place an order and they're like, just give it to anybody.
Then came Elon Musk's post on X today saying, quote, just hearing about this will make things good with the bakery. People should always be able to count on Tesla trying its best.
I didn't expect that. But I'm really counting on, his word, like that is going to make good for it.
Well, before this post, she did hear from someone with Tesla explaining it was all a misunderstanding. They also asked if she could cater 2 events in March. She says she will consider it if she has the time and resources.
Ooh. She's like, I will think about it.
I'll think about it. I'm getting calls now from Cisco and Meta and you got to Apple. You got to compete. Well, this is just This is just a lovely story that came across the local news the other night. I thought it was epically down ballot. And
so I think it has a happy ending because the bakery owner is now highly skeptical of the possibility of making some pies for them in would you say March and April?
Yeah, they want to do a couple events now. Oh, and this was a big misunderstanding, even though she had the text in black and white, like, we will no longer be needing this order. I don't know what's unclear about that. That's not, we can pretty much understand what they're saying there. But yeah, I'm good on her that she's learned a thing or two now. And it does have a good ending, which is why it's not on winners and losers. But you should absolutely, the pies are legit at the Giving Pies. I have sampled them before, so you should definitely go out and try them. And it looks like she's getting a lot of support from the community because of this. So great. One thing this place does actually, she also gives back a portion of her proceeds to charity, donates pies for every pie she sells. She donates like another one to local, soup kitchen, things like that. So good on her for all of that, and even more reason to support and not necessarily pull of an order for 4,000 mini pies at the last minute. That's a little bit.
So I was looking around a little bit at this. Unfortunately, I was looking around a little bit at this on Apartheid Clyde's website. I call that the www of lies. It's the web of lies, we might call it. And I don't know if this is true, but it seems like they canceled the order for the pies for a Black History Month celebration, which doesn't look so great for Mr. Musk, gestures broadly at his other behavior in the last year or longer.
It's not a good look for Elon, no, I would say, and given the context of everything that's been going on, not a good look in general. So, yes, I like the owner. I hope that he comes through and follows his word and makes good. Sounds like he is. But good on her I love the response. Like, well, I'll think about it. Good on her.
So my understanding is the order was for about $12,000 worth of pies, something around that. And the offer from the Tesla offered to write them a check for like $2,000 or something for the inconvenience. And it's like, cancel. Yo.
Like, yeah, she probably spent way more than that already on ingredients, like they said. Like the margins for any restaurant, even a chain, are pretty slim, and you order your product based on what the demand is. And in this case, this is practically like this is a mom and pop kind of a bakery. This is a one-stop shop, brick and mortar place. So yeah, if you get an order that size, you're absolutely ordering specifically to that. Your ingredients specifically to that order, and you're probably spending good 80% of what what you're going to recoup, right? So the margin, I'm guessing, I have no idea, but I'm guessing it's pretty high. So that's not cool. It's not gonna cut it in that case. But yeah, that makes sense. $12K because these pies are a good $3 or $4 each. Little mini pies, but they're delicious.
Right, you might get some volume discount, but there's not a lot of room in there. And like, let's say that the demand from people being so pissed off at Mr. Apartheid Clyde was so great that people came in and wanted the 12,000 pies. Well, they don't have the bandwidth to sell all that. Like retailing them off 1, 3, 5, 10 at a time. Like that's pretty labor intensive. Not even making the pies, just on like fulfilling the customer's order and delivering. I presume this place delivers quality customer service as well, and so it's just the overhead on that versus delivering it all at once is going to be huge too.
Right, and don't forget the time it would take to do that too, and sell it more piecemeal, right? Even if you're selling in like dozens, right, and those kind of quantities, it's still going to take. Yeah, it would just take forever to process it because there's just this one stop. Like there's probably one line to the register, and even if people place orders online, it's like you can saw it. Like there's maybe 3 people in that kitchen total. So that's a lot of work. It's labor intensive too, because it's handmade. They're not like, as you saw, that it's not like a processing line either. With a machine, no AI making the pies.
Yeah. It's a bad story all the way around. But honestly, it's just like, I saw this and I was like, well, I mean, of course that happened, right?
Yeah,
of course that happened. And then I found out, then I saw this thing and I was like, oh, it's owner's a Latina lady with a kind of, maybe he talked to her, I don't know. Tesla doesn't have the best record on just not being racist, like to their employees.
Right. Like
maybe they're vendors too. They're like, I don't want to buy them Mexican pies. And the lady's like, I'm from El Salvador, or I'm actually from San Jose. My family is from El Salvador.
Right. Yeah, and double whammy, right? The Latino baker, and then maybe for Black History Month celebration. So you're sort of checking off the boxes of all the folks you can piss off. It's great. Go Elon. Anyway, I think it does. At the end of the day, it's a local business makes good story. It looks like there was a nice It's a Wonderful Life moment where everyone came in and bought pies and bought them out, right, and made them whole again. So yeah, they'll survive, which is great, and you should definitely go check them out. In Willow Glen on Alma, right off of 87, and it looks like Pie Day is coming up. That's a good reminder. So great time to go get to pie. That's my PSA.
This guy wants to send people to Mars. Can we just send him there?
Who's that?
Apartheid Clyde. He wants to send people to Mars. Maybe we should just send him there.
Dude, could we? I mean, I got 5 on it. Elon Musk could do it. He's got a spaceship.
Right. Oh man.
Right?
All right. So we're going to move on to winners and losers. It looks like Gavin Newsom here is starting his 2028 presidential run.
Yes, he's trying to be a winner.
Yeah, if you ask me, he's trying to be a winner here. He's got a new ad targeting conservatives on abortion rights.
From Super Tuesday, and Governor Newsom is launching a national abortion ad in red states, accusing conservative leaders of holding women hostage by imposing travel bans. KTVU's Amanda Quintana has more on the ad, which states are being targeted.
Trump Republicans want to criminalize young women who travel to receive the reproductive care they need.
The new ad put out Sunday shows a woman handcuffed to a bed with a rape kit on the table next to her. Newsom pointing out that bans such as the one in Tennessee have no exceptions, even if a woman is raped or a victim of incest. The ad will first air in Tennessee, where there's currently a proposal to charge adults with a felony if they help pregnant minors get an abortion out of state without their parents' permission. It will then air in other states trying to pass similar legislation.
It is a profound and existential moment, and all of us need to be in.
Newsom spoke on Meet the Press, calling the efforts a war on women.
These guys are not just restricting the rights of self-determination to bear a child for a young woman, but they're also determining their fate as it relates to their future in life by saying they can't even travel. These travel restrictions, modeled after a version that passed in Idaho, is now being proposed in Tennessee, in Oklahoma, in Mississippi. The AG himself of Alabama wants to criminalize travel, not just for children, but for adults seeking reproductive care. That's how serious this moment is.
This ad campaign is being funded by a political action committee Newsom launched last spring. Political analyst Brian Sobel says the goal of this ad is not about changing people's minds about abortion.
The point of the ad is to give him face time in Tennessee among people in Tennessee who at some point in the near term or in the long term may want to support him for president.
Newsom was asked on Meet the Press about whether he's ruling out his own run for president in 2024 if Democrats choose to put another name on the ticket.
Are you got to be kidding? I am here celebrating the extraordinary accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration, making the case that we need to make to lift up the issues, lift up the record, drive contrast with the Republican nominee to be Donald Trump.
He's being self-deprecating when he says, I support the president and he's the best person for the job and I have no interest. He has a lot of interest. He just knows that it's best not to talk about it publicly.
Amanda Quintana, KTVU, Fox 2 News.
I don't think that Gavin is looking at 2024. I think he knows what I know, that if Joe Biden were to, for political reasons or, hopefully this doesn't happen, like some kind of health reason has to drop out like tomorrow, that's actually a shit show for the Democratic Party. Just an absolute shit show. Now, he could come ride in on the horse and save the day. He's the one to do, he's the one. He's the one. He's the only one. He's the only, I think he's the only one. The vice president would be the heir apparent, but I think Kamala has done a pretty good job of keeping a fairly low profile and just getting her fucking work done as the vice president. And that doesn't translate to campaign, whereas Gavin Newsom has been out in the public eye like a lot lately.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, and the good wife, I think, would completely back me up or be the one saying this if she were on the show tonight. America is still a very racist and sexist society, and unfortunately, Kamala Harris fits into both of those demographics very cleanly. So the likelihood of her being elected, especially against Donald Trump, I think is actually pretty low. And it pains me to say that. She would be a fantastic president. We should be able to elect a black or a white or any kind of color woman, and we should be able to elect really whoever we want. But that's just not the way that the world works, unfortunately, right now, with the Electoral College being what it is. I think that you're right. Gavin would be the most viable option in that kind of a shit show. And he's certainly set himself up already as that. So I think he's set there, and he's doing everything, like the political analyst said. I think he's doing what he needs to be doing if he's looking at 2028. And it's never too early to put yourself out there nationally. Barack Obama didn't become a thing in 2008. He became a thing in 2004 when he spoke at the Democratic Convention and really introduced himself to the world. So Gavin is now introducing himself to the nation and to a nation of Democrats, and who he hopes will elect him in 4 years, right? But yeah, he should not be hinting at anything about this year. He should absolutely be voicing his full support for Biden, because that's what you got to do. You toe the line and wait your turn. That's politics.
And we'll know for sure. I think if he's the one who introduces Joe Biden at the Democratic Convention, then we know that's like 100% for sure that would be the beginning of his 2028 presidential run. And
everyone would love that spot.
The Democrats have a pretty deep bench, but I think they have a pretty deep bench for like 2032. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just not quite there yet. But you really don't know. You never know. And we're at that point. Like I said, in 2004, before the Democratic Convention, no one had any idea who Barack Obama was outside of Illinois, and people who knew him. So it only took 4 years, and he was president of the United States. So it can happen in a lightning flash too. So there may be people out there, potential candidates who we haven't heard about, a state senator, a state representative, or a sort of statewide official from a maybe not so blue state, like the Secretary of State of Kentucky or something like that. That's totally random. I'm just throwing it out there. But someone like that who just fires everyone up and just catches that spark. That's all you need, really. That's what Trump has tapped into, right? Trump is an awful person. He's an idiot. He shows that he's an idiot every time he opens his mouth, right? It's very clear. He's a bigot. He's all of these things, but he's tapped into something. He's tapped into a zeitgeist. He's touched a nerve, right? And he just keeps poking the nerve. And you can do that for evil purposes, like Donald Trump is doing. But you can it's also done on the other side. The other side does the same exact thing, right? Just pokes the nerve. That's what this ad and campaign is all about, right? Gavin knows, because he's seen polling more than likely, and everyone has. Reproductive rights right now and Planned Parenthood, all of these things poll really, really, really high, like really high. It's the number one thing with likely voters, because most likely voters are women, and we're coming after them, right? And they're fighting back. So that is the number one thing. If you want to, that's why Evan Lowe's ad that we saw last week, or a couple weeks ago, focuses on what he did to enshrine reproductive rights. That's very much poll driven. Like the people it's resonating with people. So Gavin's just setting himself up for 4 years from now as being the champion of women, basically. And that's a fantastic place to be. And especially for a guy who, in theory, could have trouble with his past with, women. But he seemed to have moved beyond that and been able to put that behind him, amazingly. He is at this point, I would say, the front runner if we're looking at 2028. But again, anyone could come out of the woodwork.
Another person that came out of nowhere, even though he'd been in politics all his life, like in 2015, Bernie Sanders kind of came out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
He ran an issue campaign in 2016. If he would have thought he could win, I think he probably would have started campaigning a lot harder, a lot earlier, and he might have won in 2016. And so like you said, we just don't know. It could just even be somebody you've kind of heard of totally in the background that's always been around, and they make a good speech, or they have a good campaign, good marketing, and then the progressive wing of the party, or more likely, I guess, the moderate wing of the party is probably who's gonna the moderate part of the party is who's gonna do the anointing. But they managed to get the attention of everybody, even though they never really have in the past. And we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. It would be, I'm not gonna lie, the thing I've mentioned this about Liccardo and Gavin, and they have this in common. They're actually not afraid to talk the shit and do the rope-a-dope. Like, they're not afraid to metaphorically draw blood from their political opponents. And I feel like the Democrats are pretty bad at that generally. And so that's a real big kind of selling point. And I don't think Gavin's past of cheating on his wife is going to be that big a deal.
If it hasn't to this point, I mean, he's governor, right? At this point, you don't get to that point if that's going to be a problem. There's just so many ways that can go wrong. So I think he's gone beyond that, and it's past him. It's not going to affect any kind of presidential run. But he's just the best. He's the best equipped to deal with all that as well too, because he's been through it.
Right. He's got the political machine essentially. He's
right.
Yeah,
right.
Because he's
and being from California is not a bad thing at all. Like with the electoral college, you reap from that, the money, all of it. So, and it's not. He's going to have a great story to tell, because he's not going to be a quote unquote Johnny come lately on a lot of these issues. He's going to have been on the forefront of a lot of progressive issues for a long time, having been from San Francisco, right, where that's just part and parcel of what you do. So, whether it's gay marriage, or it's transgender rights, or it's the rights, reproductive rights, or whatever have you, he's been on the forefront of the progressive side of things for a long time. So he'll actually attract, I think, a lot of moderates who appreciate, just a nice, clean-cut white dude, right? And wholesome white dude. And then he'll also attract a lot of progressives who like that, have been looking for what you were talking about, that firebrand, that someone who is willing to, attack. And the thing with I think differentiates him from like a Liccardo is that I think Gavin can righteously do that. Like he has fought the fight, and he has been there, on those values. Liccardo, I think, sometimes takes up a cause where he was not necessarily always on that cause, and maybe he was part of the problem that created it in the first place. And that, to me, while I appreciate that you're on the right side now, it's more like it smacks as disingenuous, whereas Gavin, I think, has a little more heft when it comes to these issues. He's been there.
Well, that's enough speculation about the 2028 election. Apparently, they're trying to recall Gavin Newsom again. It went so well the first time. They didn't even win Nevada County, for fuck's sake, the last time. Remember, we were watching the results come in. I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna win Nevada County by 10 points. I'm like, this shit. Remember, I was like, this shit's over.
Yeah, it's done.
He won he fucking won a red county.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's find out. It sounds like some other people are still pissed about it, and they think that it's worthwhile trying again, but they're going to find out the hard way. But anyway, we'll learn more about it.
All right, it's happening again. Just a week from the primary election, activists set their sights on Governor Gavin Newsom.
A new recall effort comes just 2 years after Newsom successfully beat that previous attempt to get him out of office. ABC 7 News reporter Luz Pena spoke to the campaign director of the new recall and is here with what she found out. Luz.
Yeah, around 9:30 a.m., the group behind Rescue California filed a notice of intent to recall the governor. This less than 3 years after the last recall.
Governor Gavin Newsom is facing another recall attempt, less than 3 years after beating the last one. The group behind this one submitting almost 500 signatures to begin the process.
We got them in 3 days. They range from mostly just depressed, repressed, and suppressed citizens of the state of California, along with some leadership and law enforcement and so forth. And we're filing and we're not messing around.
The group Rescue California accused the governor of abandoning the state to advance his presidential ambitions, pointing to a list of issues across California.
Highest homeless rates, highest taxes in the country. All of those things are in there as reasons for the recall. And included in that is the public safety and education issues.
But granting health benefits to undocumented immigrants and the state's record $73 billion deficit are the biggest motivators.
Now have a $73 billion deficit. He's not qualified. Right now, he's not doing his job. He certainly shouldn't be applying for another one.
On X, Governor Newsom responded to the recall attempt. Trump Republicans are launching another wasteful recall campaign to distract us.
Oh, this is a mistake. You should pretend it's not happening after the last one went down like 2-1. You should be like, what recall?
I haven't heard anything. I'm over here doing my thing.
Existential fight for democracy and reproductive freedom. We will defeat them. Some of California's top Democrats, including Attorney General Rob Bonta and Senators Padilla and Butler, rushed to condemn the recall attempt. How serious is this recall?
It's not very serious. Gavin Newsom has beat back recalls before. He hasn't done anything necessarily scandalous since then. And we still have a pretty strong Democratic majority in the states.
Menlo College political science professor Melissa Michelson does think that while the budget deficit may not get him recalled, it could impact Newsom's presidential ambitions.
I think it's going to be challenging for the governor to move on to the national stage if he doesn't have a strong economic record in California to build on.
And during the 2021 recall attempt, Governor Newsom raised more than $70 million from donors, and the recall movement raised $8 million. Professor Michelson said this latest recall could potentially lead to Governor Newsom getting more donors. Luz Peña, ABC7 News.
Oh. Yeah, I think the strategy here, and I think he made a mistake, and those Democrats made a mistake going on TV. Or if they would have gone on TV, they should have just said, I don't care. But if they wouldn't put that on TV, right?
It's not that exciting, right? That's not a sexy response. What they're looking for is the triggered response. But yeah, don't give them anything. I agree. Like just ignore it and just laugh about it. Like, oh, there's another recall. What? Who? Me? Oh shit. Okay. Well, good luck. I'm going to be over here doing my thing. Yeah, don't give it any credit at all. At this point. But if anything, it's going to. Good thing for him, frankly. It puts more attention on him, and he can actually point to his record, which isn't, as far as I know, half bad. Like, we're not falling into a great abyss, as far as I know. In California, we've recovered probably faster than most other states in the nation from COVID. And while the economy is not working for everyone, it's working better than most. So we're still the 5th or 4th, whatever, largest economy in the world. So I don't see how this is a bad thing at this point. He can leverage it and, like they said, get more donors. Yay. That's going to really be helpful in a national campaign. Use it as a talking point, even like, they're coming after me because, they're scared of me. They don't want me running for president. They know I'd win. Right. So he can use this, I think, to get even more support than, so it's not necessarily a bad thing for him at all.
I like how the news said they've gathered 500 signatures. It's like, dude, how many people are in this fucking state?
Yeah, it's all that it's what it takes to. So what they're talking about is the threshold to just to get enough signatures to be able to start collecting signatures, if that makes sense, right? You have to prove a certain number of people are interested in doing this, and then you can go out and collect the signatures. So they still have to collect whatever. Probably a couple million. I forget what the number is now, but it's based on whatever the turnout is in the last gubernatorial election. So probably 5% or 10% of that vote would be the number of signatures you need to get. So we're talking like millions of people. So it costs quite a bit to get to the point of being on the ballot, and then they got to spend to try to actually win on the ballot. So it's not very likely that they're going to succeed, and it's going to benefit him more than them.
I mean, if it's 10% of the people that voted last time, they should be able to get the signatures. When does he term out? Is it 26? Is that right?
I forget if he terms out at that point. If he's done his 2 terms, I think that might be it. It could be that 26 is when he. No, yeah, 26. I think you're right. Is when he would term out.
So when? Oh God. So this is, I mean, whatever. Like they can do whatever they want. I think I think another thing that's going on is I think people, particularly in California, are just getting tired of recalls.
100%. 100%. I think people understand now that we've had enough of them. I think more people understand what they are, why they are, what's the context, and the fact that we just have elections. We have elections, right? And I think he just got reelected, so it's like, fuck, boo-hoo, right? Why didn't you go out and organize behind someone to help beat him in the fair election process, right? Why do you have to do this recall? Because you don't have a case, and you're not going to beat him that way. So you're trying to do an end around.
Or do you think it's more like I mean, I'm pretty cynical, so there's some chance this is just a grift, right? And the people that are organizing the recall are trying to raise their own like visibility and platform. It could be for any number of things, like just to fucking launch a podcast. I mean, who knows?
Oh yeah. No, I'm sure I would not be surprised at all if that was part of this, the angle that they're taking here, right? Everyone's looking for a platform, even us, right? So yeah, no, not surprising at all if they were just looking to grift off of it. But yeah, we'll follow it up and we'll keep tabs and we'll see what happens.
So this next story, I like the title. The SF policy aims to limit, quote, pretextual traffic stops, tackle racial bias. So they just basically mean we are going to try to limit the number of times we just pull over folks because they're black or young or.
Yes, we recognize that our cops are racist, and we're just trying to get them to be not racist more often.
Right, less racist,
more of the time. Anyway, we'll find out more from our local news outlet at ABC.
We haven't had a presentation.
After a tense meeting, San Francisco's police commission voted to restrict pretext traffic stops.
In the meantime, what will happen is if anybody gets pulled over for a traffic stop, the officer has to tell the person why they're pulling them over on camera.
The new policy could change law enforcement strategies. Under it, officers will be restricted from requesting vehicle searches without probable cause of criminal activity. They would also be limited in asking investigatory questions. Walker was one of the commissioners who voted against the measure.
We have issues with racial bias in our rules. Not enforcing them isn't necessarily the answer. Changing the training, working with the officers, changing the culture is really how that's going to happen.
San Francisco Deputy Public Defender Brian Cox categorized this vote as historic.
This is a long time, coming, but it's also long overdue. We have to remember that these racial disparities and who gets stopped and searched didn't just pop up overnight. These are issues that this department has struggled with for a long time.
A 2020 ABC7 I-Team investigation of traffic stop data found that between July of 2018 and March of 2020, black drivers were 4.4 times more likely to be stopped by a police officer than a white driver. When looking at the most recent data available, black drivers were still stopped at a much higher rate than other drivers. The president of the San Francisco Police Officers Association called the commission's vote ridiculous.
They make it about a race issue because the numbers are too high for the particular demographic in this city. So what are we supposed to do? We can only stop this many certain people, but everybody else is fair game. That's not how it works, right? The law is the law, and we do try to apply it equally to everyone.
Lieutenant McRae said officers should have the authority to make decisions based on what they're seeing.
I mean, we were the ones who took the oath to do this job.
We promised.
Certainly didn't.
And these changes are not effective yet. In the coming months, San Francisco police officers are set to go through special training and a process to roll this out. Also, the Police Officers Association could file a lawsuit against the city and block this policy from being implemented. Luz Peña, ABC7 News.
So one of those things that they said that they want the police not to do is illegal in the first place. You can't just search someone's car without probable cause. I suppose you could just run around asking everybody if it's okay to search them, but that's, sort of following maybe the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the illegal search and seizure, law in this country. And not asking investigatory questions. Well, the thing about this is like it should be applied like smartly. Like if there's an unfolding situation where people are in danger, yeah, ask all the fuck questions you want. But if the thing's already over, let the person get a fucking attorney and let them be interrogated like fucking like just come on.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out for me in this story the most is the POA president, because it's impossible to avoid that she's black, right? And she's having to sit there and, as the POA president, defend these racist fuckers in her department, right, in her ranks, in her membership, that are creating this problem. And in fact, it's a bias against her community, and so she's being pulled like a million different ways, I'm sure, on this. I actually kind of sympathize with her, even though it's, I think it would be more appropriate for them to respond like, oh, this is intense, like this does not look good, right? This is not right. What can we be doing better? What should we be doing better? Let's work together to figure it out, instead of, well, we know better, right? Producer Dave, like we took the oath. We're here to protect and to serve, and we know how to do police. That's how we do police all day. So we know how to do police, and you can't tell us how to do police, commission, or data. And you can't tell us that we're doing police wrong when it's abundantly clear. I mean, those numbers are not. That's not even close. Like the numbers are off the charts for the stops of black individuals, right? Especially related to their percentage of the actual.
Looks like we've lost our co-host here.
Thank you for pointing this out. We're going to work on it.
Ooh, your audio. Something happened. Yeah, something happened. Can you talk a little bit more?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, something happened.
I can. I think I'm freezing up a little bit here.
There we go. Cool. All right.
Okay.
Well, everybody listening to the podcast, this show is in fact recorded live. So if something goes a little bit wrong, you get to hear it on Spotify. We're going to move on to our
follow us on social media.
We're going to move on to our next story here. The new candidates for the Oakland police chief are going to be released.
Ooh, excellent. I'm looking forward to this
week.
It's one of the common issues heard throughout Oakland. If you ask those who live here or run a business, they've had enough.
Cars getting broken into, people getting robbed, stores getting broken into. And this been going on for the past 2 years.
Ali Muhammad owns a market in Oakland. He says his store gets robbed almost daily.
I think a week ago,
your store doesn't get robbed almost daily.
We had 2 break-ins within a period of time of 3 days.
It's now been more than a year since Mayor Sheng Tao fired former police chief Laron Armstrong. On Thursday, Oakland residents will be able to meet the new candidates. They say whoever they are, they need to make changes fast.
We need to have the chief, the potential chief, has a basic understanding of the diverse cultures and to build the working relationship, with all communities.
Data from the ABC 7 News I-Team shows robberies, burglaries, and vehicle thefts in Oakland are all on the rise in the last few years. Recently, places like In-N-Out and Denny's announced they will be closing because of the crime in their area. Although being born and raised in Oakland, Ali says he's thought about moving.
I love this city, but this crime rate is just pushing me out. Sometimes I think about, just going to a different state where it's more safer.
Mayor Sheng Tao already rejected the first round of candidates proposed by the police commission. Although the new names of the candidates have not been revealed, Councilmember Noel Gallo says the police chief is the most important position Oakland can hire right now.
We're now responding through 911 calls. We're not responding to 311 calls regarding the stolen vehicles, the abandoned vehicles, breaking into your car.
Store owners like Ali say without a chief, they feel like city leaders don't care about them right now.
We just want to be like a normal city. Just want to be like everybody else. But unfortunately, it's chaos around here.
In Oakland, Ryan Curry, ABC 7 News.
I'd like to see the evidence that guy's store gets broken into like almost every day.
It's chaos, Producer Dave. It's chaos out there. Gotta watch out. Yeah, well, he did say, 2 break-ins in 3 days. Okay, that's not even every day. I mean, that's a lot, 2 in 3 days, but that's still not every day. So a little bit of hyperbola going on there. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing who the candidates are. Obviously, former Chief Armstrong will not be involved in that because he was involved in the last cohort of candidates, and the mayor rejected all of them. So we'll see what happens next.
And now it's time for Get Your Shit Together, and we are going to move on to the saga of the Leaning Tower of San Francisco.
The Leaning Tower of Millennium. Yeah, so it looks like they fixed the problem where it was like kind of like listing one direction, but now apparently it's sinking in a whole new kind of way.
Like, so, we shored up the 4 corners and the sides of it. Uh-oh.
We forgot the middle parts.
Well, more trouble for the troubled Millennium Tower. It's been 6 months since the luxury high-rise was fully supported to stop it from sinking and leaning.
Now, that project was hailed as an immediate success, but NBC investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbrecken has learned that the high-rise is no longer sinking any further to the side, but now it appears to be sinking in the middle.
Here at the Millennium Tower, you can see that construction crews and scaffolding are all gone, and even the cracks that once marred the front of the high-rise are now gone. No signs of the 3-year effort to stabilize the Millennium Tower by supporting 2 sides with 18 piles sunk to bedrock. Fix engineers had predicted once that was done, the tower's weight would shift onto the other sides and eventually right the tower by as much as 4 inches. But they now acknowledge that projection was overly optimistic, saying the soil under the building is not acting as predicted. Instead of sinking at the opposite edges and offsetting more of the tilt, the tower now appears to be sinking in the center.
With all buildings, there is a tendency, even though the foundation mat may be quite thick, there is a tendency for the center to settle more than the edges.
Harry Poulos is an internationally recognized expert on tall building foundations. He says the data suggests that even as the sides are not sinking as much as hoped, the tower is still settling at an overall rate of about 1/10 of an inch a year.
1/10 of an inch is not that much, but it's not heading in the right direction. And that would be a little bit of a concern for the longer term.
The overall situation is very complex. Geotechnical engineer Robert Pike says center sinking, known as dishing, can trigger cracking under the foundation.
That should have been obvious that there was a possibility of further increasing cracking and water intrusion into the foundation.
Pike says this buried wall under the opposite side of the foundation may be another hitch. Engineers figured the wall would sink when more weight was shifted onto it and help right the building a bit. But so far, Pike says, monitoring data shows the wall is holding fast. The designer of the Fix project, Ron Hamburger, told us in a statement the remainder
wondering when he was going to come on
to settle, as we always anticipated, resulting in tilt recovery, albeit at a slightly lower rate than modeling predicted. He added, "We believe the lower rate of settlement was because stress relief on the soils under the building has been more effective than originally forecast. As it stands, the tower is now tilting about 1 inch less than before, now leaning just under 29 inches at the northwest corner." Jackson Vanderbecken, NBC, Bay Area News.
Okay, I still think tear it down.
Yeah, still getting to that point. I mean, it's like, well, we fixed the tilt, but now it's sinking in the middle. So now,
now the whole thing is sinking.
Yeah, what do you do now? Like, what are you doing? It's sinking in the middle. You can't exactly, like, you're going to go straight down. And oh, surprise, the piles, the ground is not all that solid. Yeah, hello. Like, most of the ground near there is landfill that was brought in, to build out the city in the first place, or it's, bayside kind of lands, or the geology is just not really going to support a lot more over there. You already have so much going on, so it's not surprising that this is happening. It's just really hilarious that they haven't just done the thing that everyone thinks they need to do. I think, which is tear the fucking thing down. At least we think they do.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody thinks that.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe it's just us.
Maybe it's just us. Maybe we're just crazy.
Well, we're everyone.
So we're going to move on to the
I'm
Down Ballot
everyone.
Watch. So we're going to move on to the Down Ballot Watch segment here, where we talk about local political races as the election nears. We have a congressional primary, and it looks like high school students host a forum for the South Bay congressional candidates. Let's and is this state congressional race or national?
Oh, no, this is the Anna Eshoo seat, actually. So this is all the candidates that decided they would show up for the forum with the young folks, because not everyone did. So we'll find out who did.
And turning to the election, the March 5th primary election is just around the corner, but across the country, there seems to be a bit of a tone of disillusionment among many young voters. An Axio poll reveals that 58% of people between the ages of 18 to 34 are still unsure if they'll even vote come November. But a group of Palo Alto high school students who aren't even old enough to vote yet themselves are on a mission to change that. Jose Martinez shows us how.
It's never too early to start thinking about politics, and that's exactly the message here in Palo Alto, where a group of high school students decided to host a congressional primary debate. It's a historic moment for Los Altos high school student Malik Dakal.
Nuestra House in Los Altos is exactly that. It's the first ever candidates forum for a primary election hosted by...
Well, that's because your parents own the candidates.
...students in American history.
It was a 16-year-old's idea to host the candidates competing for Anna Eshoo's 16th congressional district seat.
Well, we originally thought of doing a primary forum between the incumbent Congresswoman Anna Eshoo and whoever was challenging her. But when she dropped out, we saw an opening, we saw an opportunity where a new political landscape was being built in this area, and so we decided to jump in.
And he did it with his fellow Los Altos Institution Association member Travis Hodges, who moderated today's forum.
Voters had the right to know about who they were voting for and who their options were. So we decided, even though we were in high school, that we would step in and we would fill that gap and make sure that not only voters felt like they could get involved, but also high school students and other non-voters could still get involved and watch.
Especially because Travis tells me this is going to help him achieve his dream one day.
My dream is to run for Congress one day, so hopefully maybe I'll be in one of these forums in the near future. 45 seconds to answer the following question.
A good opportunity to practice, says Travis, who was able to ask questions about issues related to housing and education. For Malik, who wants to become a lawyer, it's all about...
I'm more of a fan of policy and academia and researching to make sure that the policies we implement are able to impact our communities effectively.
And they both agree on one thing: this is not going to be their last event, because for them it's all about increasing youth civic engagement.
All right. One of the many questions posed by those students tonight was especially relevant to the Silicon Valley district that those candidates are competing to represent. The question was, how should we regulate tech and safeguard personal information without stifling technological innovation?
And so we need much stronger safeguards around making sure that we stay at the center of the AI revolution.
We need a global tech treaty. Right now, we follow the European GDPR. California has COPPA, but that's not enough. We need something that is global, because what ends up happening is when we do some things that are more localized, tech companies don't comply and they say we pull out of this region. And we need to make sure the disclosure is a lot better so that people actually know what they're signing up for. That's part of the problem.
It's critical that our regulations not stifle innovation. People are in favor of the GDPR, but that's something large companies can handle. It's a web of regulation that people say has actually stifled innovation.
The state of Utah has actually taken the lead here with SB2. It is time to bring SB2 to a national level and ensuring that parents can have some control over what access their children have to online material.
We have to keep in mind what that data is being used for. And one of the issues that I'm very concerned about is algorithms, right? The algorithms have polarized your news feeds.
I saw it conspicuously missing from that was Mr. Liccardo and Mr. Lowe.
And Mr. Simidian. Like basically the three front runners were not, decided not to show up for that particular a bit. So I'm not sure what their decision-making process is there, but they left the opening for everyone else. There weren't that many people there in terms of voters, right? It's not like you're going to win a shit ton of votes there, but it was on TV and they did talk about it on the local news. So, it could have been beneficial to be there. But I think a lot of the candidates, the front-running candidates, they see this as sort of a macro kind of election where it's just going to be about TV ads and mailers and just doing all the big things, and not necessarily showing up for every forum because they might feel it's a waste of time. So in some cases it is.
So the funny thing is, like, the Los Altos students are like, well, whoever wins that seat, my dad's actually going to purchase that person. So
I'll get to have access to them no matter who it is. Either way. I did like Dude's hair, the moderator. I got to get that dude going. That's really good.
Yeah, he was
really
he was from that show Twilight.
Yeah. He's a vampire. Anyway, well, not to be outdone, I don't know if you were able to watch much of this last week during public comment, but the candidates in the district that Evan Lowe currently represents, who are now vying to replace him since he can't run for both the things at once, they had their own little forum, and I had a clip here. I don't know if it's timestamped, but we can take a. Okay, great. We can take a look at sort of their response to one question about the local economy, which might be pretty insightful as to their responses. But there's 6 candidates. I think 5 are at this forum at least. And 3 are Democrats, 1's a Republican, and 1 is a Libertarian. And I'm going to let you all figure out who they are and what they are.
Thank you. Omar, this next question starts with you, and it's for 60 seconds. California has experienced a migration of businesses out of the state. What will you do to reverse that trend?
I think one thing that we take for granted a little bit here in California and in Silicon Valley is our status as a tech capital of the world. I think we just think, oh, well, we're Silicon Valley, everyone's going to come here. It's such a thriving place. But what we're seeing is that companies are leaving because of the policies that we have, because we haven't been over time innovating in the policies that we're introducing. But on top of that, the workforce that we have isn't happy here. More and more young people like me who were born here and went off to college, don't want to come back, or people that are getting jobs prefer to be in New York City or other places across the country. And the reason why is because the quality of life here at home isn't as high as it used to be. And people are assuming that if they come here, they can never buy a home, that the infrastructure and the transportation options that are available just don't meet what they want out of their life. And so I think what we need to do is not just work with our companies to have a thriving economy, but also to improve the quality of life here at home such that the workforce wants to come back here and wants to stay here, and so that people who are born and raised here are also able to stay here.
Thank you. Patrick?
Such an important question, Tracy. I mean, the disparity of jobs moving out of the state of California is the reason why our state budget has a major deficit right now. It is the reason why we have had a $100 billion surplus just 2 years ago. And now we have, depending on who you talk to, the governor or the Department of Finance, a $30 to $67 billion deficit. We definitely need to be doing more in the state legislature to address this. We're a co-equal branch of government. We need to be standing up for creating way more efficiencies to keep jobs here. Every month, I'm getting a new jobs report of more jobs being laid off, specifically in the tech sector. We need to be doing more on housing affordability, like we talked about, workforce issues, and with the new normal, people are working from home. They're able to do that. Tech companies are getting wise to do that. Our educational institutions, you can be Zooming from home. We've got to do more in that space as well.
Thank you. Bob?
Well, it's very entertaining to hear the people who are promising to do more taxing and spending tell how they're going to.
I know who that is. It's a libertarian.
Ding.
All of it's economic. The taxing and spending. It's less profitable to do business in California than it is in somewhere else. What happens? The business leaves. It's very simple. That one, plus when they're not taxing and spending, they're also passing more regulations, more restrictions on housing and building. minimum wage laws, rent control. It's less and less profitable to try and earn an honest living in California. So
wait, how does rent control hurt most businesses?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe sees landlords as small business owners, right? Housing providers.
Like somebody in chat just mentioned too, we could also tell he was libertarian and just by his audio.
Every day, and the workers are leaving, and the problem is economic. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Sophie?
This is actually a question I wanted to ask our politicians. So we have a very expensive government that keep adding new and more laws to rule over people's life. And we have income tax and also sales tax. We paid to this, but we didn't expect that from under the table, billions of dollars statewide were paid out from our sales tax to giant corporations. And this in return killed the small business. And the housing was driven by the billionaires, millionaires, so expensive. No income people cannot afford. And the poor education, parents have no right to teach their kids. Our international kids are learning life skill, but our kids have to learn sexual things.
Oh God.
And people just feel it's too expensive living here. It's not livable. I feel the same way. So, but I'm here to support people.
Thank you. Thank you. Tara?
Thank you. Well, I want to restore the Silicon Valley I grew up in. And, we need to renew our commitment to progress. And it starts with common sense ideas that innovated our valley to begin with and made us become an engine for the state of California. That means funding education so the next generation can get into these jobs of the future. It means working with local governments to speed up the production of affordable housing. It means making our neighborhoods safer. And it means prioritizing investments in education and infrastructure, because those investments are key drivers for long-term economic growth. We do have an exodus of families and businesses, and we need to revitalize Silicon Valley and the state of California by making it more friendly for business and small business. This can include targeted tax incentives, streamlining regulations, supporting small business development centers like we've been doing here in Santa Clara County, and investing in our infrastructure. We can foster innovation, we can make our neighborhoods more affordable, and we can restore Silicon Valley as a global tech hub.
So the gal on the top right, Sophie, belongs on the public comment that happens after this to go and yell at the school board about kids being taught sexual things.
Oh yeah, very much so. She's absolutely that person. And yet polling pretty high because I don't know if you were able to guess, she was the Republican.
Oh, gotcha. So she's like the lone Republican in the race, and it's the same. Is it the same thing where the top two go through?
Correct, no matter what. But it's open, right? So everyone gets to vote. All the parties get to vote on this race. But while you don't have like a D next to your name on the ballot, you can show a preference, right? Your party preference, which most people do, right? So she's the only one that's going to have party preference Republican. And I think there's another one, but she's the woman. She's the only one doing it, much of anything to run. And in a space where 26% or 25% of the electorate is Republican, that's enough to get you through to a runoff. So we'll see what happens, especially when there's this many Democrats vying for the other 75% or whatever of the vote, including the independents. So it's entirely possible that she gets through. She's not spending much money at all. She doesn't have much of a campaign to speak of, but she's turning up for these debates and forums, and she's putting herself out there, and she's on the ballot, right? She has a ballot statement, and Republicans are going to go out there and say, well, I can't vote for any of these fuckers, so I might as well vote for her. She seems reasonable, and maybe they never heard her speak before, or even heard anything about her. That's all they see is that's her name, that's what party she prefers, and that's what party I prefer, and that they stick to it. Democrats are not as, I think, loyal to the letter as Republicans are in that way. And not to say that Democrats would vote for the Republican, more that Democrats maybe wouldn't vote in that race if they don't really have a horse, right? Or if they're not really committed to a candidate. They just may not vote because they're not as loyal in that regard, where it's like, you just got to vote for somebody because we got to get this seat, right? We have to hold this seat. So Democrats have gotten lazy. Republicans in California have closed the ranks and recognized that they don't have a whole lot of friends. They got to stick together. That's pretty much what's happened.
I'm just curious to see what kind of percentage the Libertarian gets. I'm guessing like 1 to 2, if that.
If it's, it could, the Libertarian vote could determine, frankly, who goes through to this runoff. Because right now, the 3 Democrats are, depending on which poll you look at, polling, first, and then the other 2 are duking it out with Sophie, with the Republican woman for third place or for second place. So whoever, if the Libertarian's more likely going to draw votes from Sophie. So the more votes he gets, the less votes she gets. And that means more likely that Democrat, whoever it is that's vying for second place, gets through. So the less votes that he gets, the more that Sophie gets, and the more likely that Sophie gets through. So that'll be the really interesting thing to find out on election night, what happens. But I think it's anyone's game on the Democratic side. I think one of them's getting through. I just don't have any idea which one of it's going to be yet. We'll find out.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that or not. Up next,
we'll find out next Tuesday night. So
up next, apparently there's a primary for Mayor Ed 209's spot, and here's a local news hit about it. Although I have a feeling that Mayor Ed 209 is kind of a shoe-in here.
This will decide it because they're the only 2 candidates, so there won't be a runoff. Whoever wins.
Super Tuesday, less than 2 weeks away now. Since it's a primary, most races will decide which 2 candidates will move on to the general election in November. But there will actually be a winner declared on March 5th in the San Jose mayor's race. NBC Bay Area's Ian Cole has the story.
There are just 2 candidates running for San Jose mayor, incumbent Matt Mahan and challenger Tyrone Wade. Wade is a retired marriage, family, and crisis counselor and worked in several different city governments around the Bay Area.
Nothing has been done that I've wanted to be done by either the city government, the mayor, or the city council.
Wade wants to reform child protective services and the police department. He believes counselors should be the ones responding to domestic violence calls, not officers. And Wade says he also ran 2 homeless shelters and is qualified to handle the issue.
There are 300 people who are living on the streets, dying every year. It's an epidemic that we have to take care of. Those are the kinds of things that my experience and training has prepared me to resolve.
On the other side, current San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan. He's serving an unusual 2-year term because Mahan won the runoff in 2022. Voters chose to move the mayoral election to align with the presidential years to increase voter turnout. So he's finishing a 2-year term and seeking another 4 years.
I think it's critically important that we follow through on the work we're doing to get people into basic dignified shelter and out of these tent encampments faster, hire more police officers and make our city safer, clean up the city and expand economic opportunity for all of our residents.
Mahan believes he's made progress on his agenda for the city, but says there's plenty more work to do.
And when we get the basics right, we create economic growth, more tax revenue, and greater opportunities.
And since there are only 2 candidates, the March 5th election will decide the race. Ballots have been sent out, but you can vote in person until the polls close on March 5th at 8 p.m. In San Jose, Ian Cole, NBC Bay Area News.
I mean, I like the other guy, but he doesn't have any name recognition as far as I know, and he probably doesn't have a campaign machine behind him, so...
He has no chance in living hell of winning, unfortunately, but I highly recommend everyone vote for him. That's all I'll say about that. It's really sad, frankly. All this effort that went into moving the bloody mayoral election to the presidential election year, and all this, hand wringing that was going on about it, and increasing turnout and getting more progressive allies elected and getting, getting a better representation of the city in the vote. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to this, primary election where it's going to be a heavily white conservative electorate voting and a very small electorate voting, and not at all representative of the city. And this guy's going to skate to re-election because he was already the incumbent. Now, it might change in 8 years when he terms out and there's another open seat in the mayor's office. But it just seems, it's so funny to me, all the effort that went into moving this election, and it's just going to be done now, and it's going to be a bang, not a bang, but a whimper, right?
Do you think the 2-year cycle maybe has something to do with it too? That maybe people didn't have time to like ramp up campaigns and whatever. And if you were going to do this, there was going to be a cycle maybe where the incumbent was at a much greater advantage just because of the short duration of the cycle.
Yeah, I think that was always the case. You're absolutely right. It yet to be seen in 4 years, but I don't know that there's much of a pipeline at all of anyone who could have, regardless, challenged him if they had 4 full years to wait to do it. I think the person who was best probably set up to run against him was the person who ran against him 2 years ago and was unsuccessful. And I don't know that, and I think she knows that she would not have been successful again because she didn't try to run against him again. But Cindy Chavez was really the only person who had the kind of infrastructure and the name ID and just the backing to be able to do it, and the setup to be able, the pedigree to be able to do it. And at the same time, it was because of that pedigree and because of her long experience and long track record in local politics that she had also a very sizable, unfavorable contingent out there that probably, dragged her down and kept her from winning that race. So even she, who was the most apt to run against him, is just not viable against him. So the whatever you want to call that side of the aisle in San Jose, the labor side or the more progressive side of things, they just don't have a candidate, and there's really no one who's set up anymore. At least, Raul Perales at the time when he termed out, maybe a couple of the current council members who were one of them who's termed out, but there's really no one who's got this kind of heft and status to be able to challenge an incumbent mayor now, who's only had 2 years, but really hasn't done anything horribly wrong in 2 years.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to move on here. This next one looks like, I'm guessing the headline here or the title of the article may be a little bit misleading, but it looks like San Francisco voters, according to the headline, are going to decide whether or not public school students are going to take algebra class. I'm guessing there's more here than just the headline, but we'll have to take a look.
On March 5th, San Francisco voters will get to weigh in on the years-long battle over which students get to learn algebra and when. For years, SFUSD students have not been allowed to take Algebra 1 until high school. Our very own Devin Feely joins us with a passionate debate which is already starting to prompt some change. Hey, Devin.
Hey, Ryan, for the past decade, it has been the policy of the San Francisco Unified School District that algebra is first offered to students starting in the 9th grade. It was a one-size-fits-all policy. And frankly, it didn't really matter if a student through ability or interest or effort was ready to take algebra sooner than that. And for college-bound students, it put them at a profound disadvantage. Now, voters can make their voices heard on this controversial issue, and there's already some evidence that the school board is listening.
2 years ago, as a freshman at San Francisco's Abraham Lincoln High School, Josie Matakin took 2 math classes in a single year, algebra and geometry.
Definitely taking 2 math courses wasn't probably the way I wanted to do it.
Josie didn't have much of a choice. She wanted to take calculus as a senior in preparation for college, but for the past decade, her school district in San Francisco had a policy to not offer algebra to 8th graders, even if they were ready for it.
Why are you holding our kids back?
Rex Ridgway is Josie's grandfather and says the no algebra for 8th graders policy just doesn't add up, and forced him to pay to supplement Josie's education.
I paid for a special course, cost me $860 to educate her in Algebra 1. So that she could comfortably double up in the 9th grade.
Rex feels so strongly that the district's math policy is misguided that he's supporting Prop G, a non-binding ballot measure proposed by the Board of Supervisors that would, in essence, urge the school district to reverse course.
The Board of Supervisors can't tell the Board of Education what to do and vice versa, but we put this on the ballot to give the people, the parents, the voters a voice.
Engardio says while the ballot measure is symbolic, it has already put pressure on the school board to change after digging in their heels for the past decade.
You must offer algebra in the 8th grade. It is ridiculous that you have banned it for the last 10 years. And so we are putting this on the ballot because the parents are so frustrated. They need to have a voice, and this lights a fire.
There is evidence the plan is working. The school board voted at its February meeting to phase algebra back into 8th grade classrooms over the next 3 years.
In a prepared statement, School Board President Lainey Motomiri said, quote, "These changes are about creating access for all students to advanced math," adding that hard work lies ahead, but describing the change as a significant step forward. Rex says it's about time.
Bottom line is, it didn't work. I call it a decade of damage.
Josie agrees.
If you don't get algebra in the 8th grade, or if you don't double up in freshman year, you're basically going to be behind. And that's really sad.
And no matter what happens with Prop G, Josie has already given the district's current policy a vote of no confidence.
A third of the schools across the district will switch to teaching algebra in the 8th grade next year. They're going to phase it in for the rest of the schools 2 years after that. And as you can imagine, it's not just one change. It also changes the curriculum in the lower grades as well, so that students are ready for algebra by the end of middle school.
Just bringing up algebra, it just brings back a lot of bad memories back in junior high and back in high school. But if it's not binding, why was it so important to get this on the ballot, even if the school board already made the change?
Well, there was a lot. The school board hadn't made the change prior to this being on the ballot. So that's number one. There was a lot of parents who've wanted this for a decade, and the school system didn't budge until now. So the argument was perhaps this was something that was kind of a motivating factor. Getting it on the ballot maybe motivated the district to finally modify their policy.
So message made and message heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Thanks, Deb.
So just real quick, it's been a long time since I was in junior high and high school. Algebra per se was not offered even on the honors track in junior high. They called it pre-algebra. And it was an algebra class. And then you would then take geometry your freshman year, and then you would take something called Algebra 2 and not trigonometry. That's a racist podcast out of the UK. Trigonometry sophomore, and then pre-calc junior, and then calculus senior year. I think
that's about right.
I fucking every school district's different. I don't know what the honors track math is called in 8th grade there, but the headline's totally misleading. It's like, we're going to decide whether or not to teach algebra. Incorrect. Whoever wrote that should be fired. Because it should say algebra in 8th grade.
Correct. And the ballot measure itself is not, it's non-binding. It's not deciding anything at all. That, like they said, the school district decides on their own curriculum. And yeah, sure, the pressure's there, but it's probably been there, frankly. This is just another, it's obviously just, placating parents, and this one supervisor looking to make a name for himself. And by doing that and by siding with parents, and it's not the worst thing in the world to side with parents. They are heavy voters, and they are active voters, and they're going to be around for a while. But yeah, it's just sort of succumbing to the calls from the community, right, and putting pressure on other entities that you really have no control over. But if it works, it works, and pressure is pressure. So, but yeah, you're right. The headline writers need to figure their shit out, get their shit together.
Right. And like the other thing is, it's being phased in, which is fine. But I just wonder, having problems hiring teachers because of the cost of living. Now I don't know. I just feel like now there's staffing concerns, maybe at the junior highs or middle schools or whatever, with another class. Even if the regular math teacher would have no problem teaching it. Now it's like a different curriculum that has to be put together, and there's all kind of logistical stuff here that needs to be handled. But as you often say, we have confidence in our educators, and I think they'll be able to make this transition pretty easily. Or they could have just skirted around this by doing an algebra class in eighth grade for the honors kids, call it pre-algebra, and then give everybody geometry in 9th grade. Yeah. I don't know.
I think the educators themselves, I'm not worried about them doing the job and doing the work that we've been trusted them to do, and that they've sworn to do. It's more like the quantity of teachers, right? If they're going to need to staff up to do this, there's a dearth already of math, bilingual, special needs teachers. These are 3 areas where there's just not a lot of people going into the profession, right? In these subject areas. So it's going to be difficult for them to find enough teachers to cover it if they need to restaff or staff up. Hopefully they don't. But
you figure if some number of the students are just going to be taking this algebra class, it would take away class load from other classes, and maybe existing staff would be perfectly able to pick this up. But again, now there's a new curriculum that they have. Now you're just putting. If If you do that now, you're just putting more work. Even if it's the same number of classes now, there's more work.
Yeah.
New curriculum.
They'll do it. Don't get me wrong. They will do it, but it's like you just put the more and more pressure you put on that system, the more burnout you cause, and you're just not going to attract as many new teachers to the profession. The more stress you put on it.
Well,
anyway,
here we are, and another thing.
Well, want to leave you with us. No, not too many sour tastes in your mouth, so a nice little warm taste. But something is being done because it's been very difficult for pet owners to find a place to live that's not going to cost them an arm and a leg or their pet. So former supervisor turned legislator Matt Haney has an idea for how to hopefully help with that. We're going to find out about it here.
Making in the Bay make it a little easier for renters with pets. A San Francisco Assembly member introduced a bill which would bar landlords from saying no to dogs, cats, and other pets.
Today at the Bay's Chris Sanchez joining us with more on this. So, Chris, what would this mean for those renters and property owners?
So it might be a little bit easier to find a place to rent if you have a pet, where it's estimated about 1 out of 3 units will allow you to have a pet. So you know it's hard. You know that it will also cost you a lot of money. You'll have to pony up what is usually a pretty big pet deposit. Now, California Assemblyman who represents San Francisco, Matt Haney, he wants to change that. He introduced a bill that would force landlords to consider pets on a case-by-case basis rather than just having a blanket no pets policy. Landlords could still prohibit pets for what he calls reasonable reasons. And he says he's looking ahead to days where there is enough housing, but which people can't rent because of their pets. He doesn't want units sitting vacant because of that. Our partners at Telemundo talked with Assemblyman Haney about the really high pet deposits that also can be a barrier to tenants who can make rent, but who can't afford to put down thousands of dollars on the side. They also talked with this person, the spokesperson for the California Apartment Association, who points out that the
this person
does not take into account situations where there's no access to a backyard, or there are other tenants who have allergies or other considerations. It also does not allow for an increase in security deposits meant to repair pet-related damage. We know that even the best of pets sometimes can be a little rough on our homes. So the bill is still very early in the process. It has to go to committee and be discussed there, and then it gets, kind of manipulated and changed and
torn apart.
Forward. We expect that the first conversation about this in Sacramento will be in March.
But it's interesting. It sees both sides of it, at least. You know, pet owners, we're pet owners, but then you also have concern for your house.
Right, and we know how we train our pets.
Yes.
You know that not everybody trains their pets the same way.
That's true. That's true. All right.
So what do you got to introduce your fucking landlord to your cat? Like, what the fuck?
Right. Podcat, this is landlord. Landlord, this is podcat.
Cats hate landlords. Cats hate landlords.
They do. They pee all over them. Good on Assemblymember Haney for making it hopefully easier for renters with pets, and laugh at the Apartment Association for everything they do.
I do like how they just called her this person.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot, because that's sort of how I think of them, as those people. I'm just so sick and tired of the Apartment Association.
So what is interesting here is, like, in practice, if they're describing it properly, that the landlord of the potential landlord or whatever just has to make up a reason not to allow the pet, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to, and when this thing eventually gets passed, if it does, right, it's going to have gone through a ringer of, those landlords and the Apartment Association and their housing providers, right, of manipulating it, as Chris Sanchez says, basically gutting it and rewriting it and just making it more amenable to themselves. So there'll be a lot of loopholes, I'm sure, within this bill. But since it had to do with pets and there weren't a whole lot of other happy-go-lucky stories out there, that's another thing for this week.
You're like, this is the closest we're going to get. We did not have vehicle versus a building this week.
No, I didn't see much of anything out there, so we'll just have to keep even structure-wise, no buildings or lampposts or trees or anything. So we'll keep an eye out.
Well, you want to close the show out?
Sure, of course. Well, like I said, we love our listener and we love our viewers. So if you have anything to share, please do it in the Discord or in the chat here on Twitch. We love having you here every Tuesday live at 7:30 Pacific, except when we're not here live at 7:30 Pacific every Tuesday. I really invite you to stay tuned for public comment. I especially invite you to stay tuned for public comment right after this, and please get yourself vaxxed. wear a mask in public when you're out there, and pants are optional. I don't know if you really have to do that. This is Audible Smoke. This has been Down Ballot, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing greens. Here at the front of the stage waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later we're all singing Queen. I get the fuck up on stage and rock the scene, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink. Spark it if you got it and then pass it to me, yeah. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty at 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course. Shouldn't you be inside?
I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rocking me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jocking me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'm probably doing sloppily.
We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band.
Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Yes, I gotta say, thank you, Bob, we do. Well, Bob Marley said that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say, thank you, Bob.